Are you a parent of a young child with autism or an older child or even an adult with autism? If so, you might be making one or more of the 5 legal and financial mistakes that I'm going to cover today. So let's get to it. And before we do, I do want to say, usually I say my podcasts don't contain any medical, educational, behavioral advice because I can't give you that kind of advice. But this episode, I'm going to make an additional disclaimer that these, I'm not giving legal or financial advice because I am not qualified to do that in the least. I'm just going to cover the 5 mistakes I've been seeing over the past 25 years that are legal and financial mistakes that you're going to want to listen to even if your child is 2 and newly diagnosed and you have no idea what their future is going to hold. Let's get to this really great episode. Welcome back to another episode. I have been meeting with a couple of my friends with older kids, and I'm seeing some mistakes that they made along the way, financially or legally, that could have really saved them some time and money now. So let's go over the 5 legal and financial mistakes from my perspective, from a layperson's point of view, again, not legal or financial advice. So mistake number 1 is not having a will and a special needs trust, and within that will, appointing guardians if your child is over 18. In terms of a special needs trust, you are going to want to have that special needs trust, which is kind of like an empty cup in case you or someone that the child has in their life leaves them money. When you get the special needs trust, I think when we got one, Lucas was little, and it's like the trust of Lucas L. Barbera, special needs, whatever it says. We gave that language to my husband's parents as well as my parents, because in their wills, if they say, okay, all the proceeds, whatever they have, is going to equally split between 2 or 4 or 6 grandchildren, they can still do that, but not to leave anything in the child's specific name. But the 5 grandchildren, and they'll list them by name, and the 6th grandchild is named Lucas L. Barbera Special Needs Trust, whatever it was called. This is super important because if you're in a state where the child can get medical assistance, Social Security, anything like that, the child, at least in Pennsylvania, again, states may vary, countries may vary, obviously. But in my state, the child can't have more than $2,000 to their name. I do know of a case where I was trying to help another family that I know, and their child is like Lucas's age, in their late 20s. And this girl did inherit money. And so when she turned 18, she was not able to get SSI and medical assistance. And luckily, this girl had more skills and didn't need it. And this family had more financial resources than most, and they were okay with it. Hey there, it's Mary, and I'm just breaking in to let you know about a special offer we have just created. So it is a 5 days to more talking, do-it-yourself mini course. You can start it today and get through the content and really see hopefully a dramatic increase in language. We have a special rate right now, 50% off. And if you use the coupon code podcast when you're checking out, you will get an extra $10 off. This is for a limited time, so get all the details at marybarbera.com/5 days And don't forget the coupon code podcast. Now let's get back to the episode. Even in the beginning, even when they're 2 or 3, you're going to want to get a will. You can appoint guardians with no problem. And you're going to want to get a special needs trust set up just in case you, within your will, or somebody else leaves the child money. Super important. Also, along this not having a will mistake is, once a child is 18, if they remain impaired and unable to make decisions, can't stay at home alone, can't drive, whatever the criteria is. I mean, Lucas clearly meets that criteria. When they turn 18, around their 18th birthday, we even started working on it a couple of months before his 18th birthday. We did seek guardianship for Lucas so that we could see his medical records, help him with any finances. He can't do any of that. So we did seek guardianship. It was a process. It did cost some money. We needed a lawyer, and we needed to go to court to get that guardianship. Now, in other states, you might be able to, talk to your pediatrician. Maybe there are less expensive ways to do that. If you have a child who's driving, going to college, doesn't have an intellectual disability, you might obviously not need guardianship, but for anyone who stays impaired, you're probably going to want to get guardianship. So, and within the will, you can't just appoint a guardian. Even in the case of me and my husband's death, we have suggested who we would want as guardians, but they would literally have to go to court to get guardianship. So there's a lot in mistake number 1, but it basically is, if possible, you need a will, need to appoint guardians. If the child's under 18, you need to get guardianship if the child's over 18 or turning 18. And if possible, you need to have an attorney who can build in a special needs trust. It's kind of separate from the will, but it is done at the same time. And if you're thinking, oh God, I have to find a lawyer, how do I do that? Just search, ask friends, and also search special needs trust and your city and state, and find out who to call. Okay, mistake number 2 is, as I kind of alluded to, is allowing the child or adult with autism to have money saved, which is over $2,000. Now, this is for people, adults and older kids who are impaired, but under 18, if they have a diagnosis with autism, you do not know what the future is going to hold. And in certain states, you can get medical assistance regardless of family income. But if the child has income or has money in a savings account, it can really hurt them. So keep in mind that $2,000 limit and keep that under $2,000 at all times. And it's important for, like I said, medical assistance, Social Security, disability, when the child turns 18. The third mistake, number 3, is unenrolling the child from public school when they're under 21. I've seen this happen a number of times, and actually recently, people are getting disgusted with the services within school. So they're either unenrolling and homeschooling, or unenrolling, paying for private school. I'm not saying never do that, but before you do that, you have to think about the public school. They are mandated to provide a free, appropriate public education. If that's not happening, then withdrawing them and just doing it on your own is going to be really taxing, and it's going to be hard to transition a child to adulthood without any funding or support. So the other thing that, like, my friend didn't know recently, he has a 17-year-old, and I was telling him to re-enroll in the public school because he had withdrew him and it was homeschooling. And I said, you know, it's really important, but the child was already 17 and he thought he only had another semester. And I go, no, no, no. Children with severe disabilities like autism, especially if it's accompanied by intellectual disability, but even autism, if they're having a language and behavior problems and issues, a child with a severe disability can go to public school or get funding from public school until their 21st birthday. With COVID, there's even in some states, there's acts that allow the child to go now through the age of 22 instead of 21. They don't physically have to necessarily go to the public school if they don't have a free, appropriate public education. But I have known kids who have gone to community college and had the public school pay for that in lieu of sending them for their 20th or 21st year. Lucas went to his adult pre-vocational program paid for by the school district, I think, when he was 20, most of the time. So you need to be, you know, think out of the box, be a little creative, but unenrolling them or graduating them early and then not having anything is probably not a good idea. Mistake number 4 is not exploring insurance and county state services or behavioral caregiving and respite services outside of the school setting while the child is young. So there are, depending on the state, there are services, you know, if both parents work full time or you're a single mom and you have to work. And there are, you know, caregiving services, there's respite, but it's very complicated. It's not very much like people are going to just present you with a platter of things to choose from. It's going to involve a lot of time to advocate for your child, to find resources. And then along the same terms is if you get insurance to cover home ABA after school, or you get the county or state to cover a respite overnight once a month, you're going to want to make sure that you use those services, you document those services, because if you don't, it's going to be hard to justify keeping the services or eventually getting more as they get older. I have found providers, a lot of times, depending on the regulations, family and friends can be caregivers and get paid. I've also found really high quality people, some of my best on care.com or Indeed, to find really good people who can help you care for or provide behavioral help to your child. And the final mistake number 5 of the legal and financial mistakes is leaving all the education and behavioral services to the professionals. I think the more you learn about how to advocate, how to be your best teacher, your child's best teacher and advocate for life, the better your child will do. The more you can learn about language, reducing problem behavior, improving self-care, which is everything I teach through my book, through my online courses, through this podcast, through my videos. The more you learn to really put things together in a systematic way, the better you and your child will be, and the less legal and financial mistakes you will make. So my motto is become the captain of the ship if at all possible, and really utilize the services that are around you. You may have to dig deep and maybe feel like at times digging for, you know, a needle in a haystack, but, you know, pursuing the services that your child needs is going to really help them get to the next level, whatever that is. So hopefully you found those 5 mistakes helpful. I don't mean to panic anybody, but I do think that avoiding some of the pitfalls, especially when your child's young, when you can really make a difference and prepare as they get older for their financial stability and just staying really on top of things, I think is key. So hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you next time, same place.